we show kind of how rough the summer months have been. Maybe not too surprising to think that, okay, in the summer months, we're going to see some stagnation or volume start to fall off as people are away from their desks. This is what Farrell from Fundstrat's highlighting, is that, look, these months are tough for crypto in general and larger markets in general. So not too surprising to maybe expect, again, another rough September. Hello, everybody. Hope you had a nice, relaxing Labor Day weekend, or at least as relaxing as it could have been in terms of the price action we've been watching play out here as Bitcoin basically hovers around 60,000 or under it, I should say, as we look at the charts and enter what is historically a brutal month for Bitcoin price. The only month since 2011 that has actually averaged a negative return. So we will be keeping our eyes on that. Luckily, though, as we covered just a few episodes ago, you still have a lot of people who are in that bullish camp sticking to their guns. As Farrell told us, he's still seeing 115K by the end of 2024. If you look at the charts right now, maybe not exactly close to that number, as we will see what plays out. And again, look ahead in this show to what we're expected to hear in just a couple weeks from the Fed as far as interest rate cuts go. And elsewhere on the charts, looking at Ethereum, also not too rosy of a picture as we watch that price action south of 2,500. Also, going to be seeing how the month shapes up and digging into a few of the details there as volumes in the Ethereum ETFs continue to fall off a cliff. But before we dig into everything on this show, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors at Stand With Crypto. Of course, as we've been highlighting over the last few shows, thanks to them, it is, of course, important to highlight that more than 50 million Americans own crypto. These are entrepreneurs, innovators, and job creators who are deeply invested in building a strong America that dominates this emerging tech sector. Stand With Crypto works to mobilize the crypto community around issues and elections. You can find out more and see where candidates in your area stand at standwithcrypto.org. All right, so let's dig into it, because as always, we kind of look back to kick off the week. You can't know where we're going this week without looking a little bit back. And CoinShares, again, out with their report looking at the flows in all of crypto investment products here globally. And when we look at that chart, you'll notice that we did snap a bit of a winning streak that we had over the last few weeks. This week, as in the latest week, not looking too strong there, with total outflows in the negative, close to half of that 500 first notch there on the chart. You can see, in fact, Bitcoin saw about a $319 million outflow for the week, and that's the one that usually constitutes the bulk of what we see in that chart. We can go a little bit longer on that one, Texas, just to give the people what they want there in terms of looking at the actual numbers and outflows, because it was Bitcoin that saw, again, the most of those outflows. Ethereum also, we should note, saw close to about 6 million outflows. The important thing there, though, trading volume stagnated, reaching only 15% of the levels during launch week. That's been one of the big problems in the crypto space. Not just Bitcoin ETFs worth watching, but now trading volumes basically stagnating. And as we covered recently, if we go to the other chart, Texas, and we show kind of how rough the summer months have been, again, historically, maybe not too surprising to think that, okay, in the summer months, we're going to see some stagnation or volume start to fall off as people are away from their desks. Of course, just coming off Labor Day week. But this is what Farrell from Fundstrat's highlighting, is that, look, these months are tough for crypto in general and larger markets in general. So not too surprising to maybe expect, again, another rough September. And that was our Bitcoin therapy session. You can watch that full interview on our YouTube or at coinage.media right now. But I do think it is important to highlight, because we also saw this over the weekend from Ryan Watkins on X, kind of highlighting the fact that we have seen volumes come down in general trading for those Ethereum ETFs. But under the hood, when you actually dig into what's happening on Ethereum, on chain, important to highlight what's going on there too, because I think it does capture the story of potentially why Wall Street's running into a tough time explaining some of this stuff. On the one hand, this is basically his response to one of the other charts, which was showing the fees, daily revenue on Ethereum, dipping to a 2024 low, off 90% year to date in that chart, basically showing that, okay, the rise of L2s and everything that we saw in terms of Ethereum's scaling roadmap playing out in that fees going down, less clutter on the network. The flip side of that, though, too, is that because things are cheaper, you also have people using the network more, which is essentially what Ryan was out tweeting about, saying that, look, this is generally good. The faster fees per transaction trend towards zero, the better. This is how you onboard billions with ETH as the programmable money at the center of it. Of course, that is true. It's a positive, and you're going to want to see fees go down. The flip side of that is that that's mostly kind of how people have been looking at Ethereum. If it's not going to be digital gold, it's going to be digital oil, as it were. And if you have the fees going down, number go up in terms of Ethereum token, probably not so up. And that's kind of what we've seen play out. So a little bit of a tough, two sides of the coin there when it comes to, yes, if things are cheaper, it is true. You will be able to onboard more use cases and more people building on Ethereum. However, the flip side of that, double-edged sword, potentially being that Ethereum making less money over time. So you still need to see use cases continue. Of course, us here at Coinage being one of those use cases with our NFTs built on Ethereum, and hoping to soon open, by the way, if you are a Coinage NFT holder of the Caucus or Network Pass, going to be opening up membership in terms of actually starting to join the DAO co-op, as we've always wanted to do, and open up a pathway for dividends as we've discussed. So excited for that. But until you see more projects like us building on Ethereum mainnet and starting to see transactions pick up to a meaningful degree, right now, at the very least, revenues for Ethereum trending in the downward direction. Elsewhere, though, I want to move on to another topic that has been one that we haven't really covered too much on the show, mostly because it's been a saga with a lot of twists and turns, and one clearly no shortage of Binance executives, as CZ still in prison in Washington. In Nigeria, this is another story that a lot of people at Binance, and now more in the wider crypto community, and now just the U.S., are paying attention as a U.S. citizen, but for this story, Binance executive Tigran, as we've discussed before. We haven't dug too deep into it, but recently there was footage of the Binance executive, Tigran Gambaryan, in Nigeria, basically heading into the courtroom that has been being shared quite a bit in the crypto community. Obviously, the back and forth here is not good, and his family has pled with U.S. officials to get him sent home. And we've seen multiple congressmen and women sign that letter and send it to the State Department, if I'm not mistaken there. But also Binance's new CEO, Richard Tang, retweeting that video, saying that the inhumane treatment of Tigran must end. Just want to play a little clip of the video that he did retweet, this one that shows him heading into Nigerian court. As the family has said, he is deteriorating, essentially, his physical ability deteriorating. And just want to play kind of what was captured on video as he was heading into court. We should warn you that there is some choice language. Just take a listen.
This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is blatant. He was told not to help me. He said there's instruction from the government. This is fucked up. Why can't I use a goddamn question? This is a show. I'm a fucking innocent person and you're doing this to me. I can't fucking walk. My spine is popping yourself. This is fucked up. I'm a fucking you. Let's go. Don't think of this. You can walk. Manage yourself. Hello. Sit, please. Baba, sit, please. I'm not fucking okay. I'm not fucking you. I'm not.
So disturbing footage there as you see Tigran heading into court in Nigeria. We should note, too, that Decrypt covered the story and did get comment from a Binance spokesperson to further that story. And just want to share kind of what they had given to Decrypt in their write-up, also featuring that video there. A Binance spokesperson did tell Decrypt that we're extremely distressed by the video of Tigran in court yesterday, adding that the executive's health is rapidly declining. Should also note that Nigeria does not need to keep Tigran in order for us to settle any alleged past issues. and that they continue to implore the government of Nigeria to let Tigran return home and let us continue in our engagements. Now, as I said, Tigran is a U.S. citizen, so this is one of those stories that is now playing out at the national level. And of course, not a great situation if that is indeed the case, that basically it sounds like it is, that Nigeria is essentially holding this guy over there as a negotiating chip, as a pawn in a larger battle between Nigeria and Binance. Of course, there were 2 executives in that country. I believe one got out, and that has made some of the situation now, as Tigran remains there in the country, worse. That court situation, I believe, is expected to play out in its next chapter on Wednesday. But clearly, as you can see, a lot of what the family has been saying corroborated there on video as he heads into the courtroom. So we'll follow that one and continue following it, but not the best situation there. As the crypto community has kind of rallied around that kind of being another one of those cases where we're watching someone who's in the space being detained in a country and held against their will. As you can see in that video, he continues to maintain his innocence. So we'll follow that story. Elsewhere in the political sphere, back here on U.S. soil, as we've covered, and not just because Stand With Crypto is sponsoring this, but as we've covered, obviously, this is an election year. And in the U.S., we've talked about crypto being a huge issue. You've heard President Trump talk about him being a presidential candidate that is the crypto candidate of choice. And you saw him launch his 4th NFT project. So a lot of this is true. But we haven't seen too much pulling around the idea of President Trump gaining ground when it comes to leaning into crypto. But we do have this poll from Farley Dickinson University. And the headline there, as you see it briefly, is that Trump seems to be gaining ground with those crypto voters. And we highlight it because it's a fairly important poll in that, as I said, we haven't seen too much effort or proof of that effort paying off. And it's still worth noting that it's extremely early. And of course, we're going to see Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump go head to head in a debate in just, well, next week, basically. So, of course, all the polling data can swing pretty remarkably around the next couple weeks. But I think it was interesting to see this poll because we've seen President Trump say he's the crypto president. And according to FDU's national poll, Trump leads Harris by 12 points among likely voters who own crypto, 50% to 38%. Of course, as we've covered on this show, President Trump did highlight Bitcoin as what he thought was a scam just a few years ago. So a huge 180. We dug into that. That episode's out there as well. But interesting polling to see that. And you heard from a professor of government and politics at FDU also saying Trump has been reaching out to the crypto community, and it seems to have paid off. It might be easy to dismiss this block as insignificant, according to Dan Casino, that professor. But I don't think people realize exactly how widespread crypto ownership is. Those are his words. So that, of course, is something that we've highlighted on this show, that he's trying to make those inroads. And according to this poll, those inroads seem to be working. On the flip side, outside of people who had said that they wanted to or that they are crypto holders, the ones, surprisingly, maybe not so much, the ones that don't hold crypto, obviously more in favor with Kamala Harris. So there is that, led by 12 points, Kamala Harris did, among those who said they didn't own crypto, 53% to 41%. So, you know, it's one of those things, is how much ground can President Trump gain by leaning farther and farther into that pro-crypto direction? At some point, that's going to be capped just because there aren't so many, but still an important block, according to FDU. So we'll see if that comes up. Didn't come up last debate. Crypto wasn't mentioned. Will it come up this time? There's surely a polling market vote, prediction market for that. My money would be on no, based on what happened last time, and then I'll be pretty disappointed. But nonetheless, we'll see what happens in just a week's time as those two take the debate stage. I also want to highlight in our 4th story today in the news recap show. Again, we do this every Monday if you're tuning in for the first time. Thank you. But we do this every week and highlight all the top stories in Web3 at Coinage.media. Want to shift to what we're seeing on the Web3 gaming front. This is a story that we kind of gave you a preview of last week when we were chatting with Swee's Evan Chang. But now it's official. We can say it. Sweet play 0x1. Pre-orders officially open as I think one of the most looked, highly sought, most exciting pieces of hardware to come out in Web3. I don't think that's a stretch in a while. It was the Solana phone, the Saga, kind of just last year that really got a lot of people excited. This is the first Web3 native hardware gaming device. That's what they're calling it, the SWI 0x1. And I guess we should just show them. Should we just show them a little video or show previewing it there a little bit? But why don't we just give you the hype video? You can take a look. We'll get into the details on the other side. Take a look at the SWI Play 0x1. There you go. All right, pre-orders are now open for that device, and it starts at $599 in terms of $599 US dollars. Always interesting to see these things priced in US dollars, though you can pay with ETH, Sol, or of course SWI. And I don't know, there's a lot to highlight here just because, you know, maybe you're into gaming and maybe this makes a lot of sense. Obviously, SWI has been gaming focused, as we've highlighted, as far as that project is concerned. But it's also, I guess, kind of interesting to think about all of the freebies. Let's talk about what's in it for us. What's in it for me if I want to pre-order this bad boy? Aside from paying $5.99, what am I going to get out of it? Even if you're not a gamer. And I think that that's kind of the more interesting piece when it comes to what we've seen play out with the Solana Saga, as people maybe look at this device. And I think it's probably worth highlighting. It wasn't too long ago. This story is from April, earlier in the spring on Cointelegraph, the one I'm looking at. This is the headline around how much people made in Chapter 2 of the Saga release. There are a bunch of meme coins that came out from that one, if you recall. And briefly, on that one, you had 2 meme coin drops that basically paid for itself. If you had paid the $450 for the presale cost of the Solana Mobile, the Saga, you would have made your money just off those 2 airdrops from this thing. And SWI says there's going to be a soul-bound token that's given out that lets people claim this device when it ships. And I think a lot of people are probably wondering if there's going to be the same situation on SWI. Is, hey, I might pay $5.99 for this bad boy, but what is that going to get me afterwards? And I think that's important to remember, is that these devices are normally targeted to their most hardcore developers and hard to reach users in the Web3 space. So it's kind of like a honeypot for everyone to kind of look at and see, okay, these users are using this thing. They're real and they paid $5.99. So they're probably like, they got disposable income. And those are kind of the users that a lot of people want to target specifically in these ecosystems. So just highlighting that it's $5.99. Not saying, and certainly SWI has not said, that there will be guaranteed airdrops to come to buyers of this device. But if history is any indication, we've seen that happen before, and likely following that playbook again. But nonetheless, pretty sleek device, and as we've highlighted, certainly an important piece of the roadmap at SWI and the Mistin Labs team. So pretty interesting to see that roll out. Pre-orders now open. We'll see how many and how quickly they might, quote unquote, sell out. Those numbers are always fun to watch because sellouts, you know, if you're only trying to sell a couple thousand, few thousand of them, you know, I think you might be able to sell out, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Also, to wrap up and look ahead to what we got coming this week, it's not a surprise, I don't think, to highlight that while September is a tough month historically for Bitcoin, it's also potentially the first interest rate cut that we will see in the US since March of 2020. Want to go to the chart that we have from Bloomberg, Texas, in this full screen that shows the difference between inflation and jobs data. Increasingly, obviously, the bond market is paying attention to that jobs data. And this week, we're going to be getting a huge update in the jobs data. This one's the full screen that I gave you before the show, so I think this one should be fine to show. It is that one. That's the one. And it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this all shapes up, because we've already heard from Jerome Powell talking about this is the more important piece as inflation comes under control. On Friday, we'll get the big jobs number for the month of August, expected to show a gain of 165,000 jobs and a dip in the unemployment rate to 4.2%. And right now, a lot of people are still expecting just a 25 basis point cut, I should say. And of course, that's off the Fed Watch tool. I like watching things off the Fed Watch tool. Other people like looking at Polymarket. And I guess, do what you want to do out there. But bettors on Polymarket right now are seeing about a 75% chance of an interest rate cut of 25 basis points. I think using the Fed Watch tool, you would see those numbers roughly in line, if not just a little bit off at 65%. So more likely than not that we're going to get just a 25 basis point cut if you're looking at where things stand now. However, all that could change because, again, this isn't until 15 days when we're going to see the next decision from Jerome Powell and the Fed. So we still got time, but that key jobs report data, unemployment data coming out on Friday. And of course, before we get that on Thursday, the latest when it comes to unemployment claims. So clearly the job market is in focus. Clearly we're going to get an interest rate cut. Question is how big? No one knows. But right now the markets and bettors seem to be leaning towards that smaller of the two. That all could change if Friday becomes a, labor market not looking so hot situation. Why does this matter? Because right now, as we've seen, Bitcoin is trading heavily with the macro market indicators that we get. The correlation with stocks is there. And of course, all of this on the global macro stage, all these data points matter as the Fed charts its path and potentially could see the first rate cut. Most likely we'll see the first rate cut since March of 2020. So how does that play into the idea of September being a very tough month historically for Bitcoin? I don't know. You let us know. Maybe you should let us know in the comments. Maybe you should reply. Maybe you should like and retweet this video so more people can see it. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how September shakes up. And if we want to go back to that chart, I personally want to go back to the chart, Texas, that we showed before, that there is some optimism at the end of the year. September, yes, we all know it's a tough month. What happens past it is really going to be whether or not we hit some of those more lofty price predictions or not. And this is the chart that keeps me not crazy. This is the chart that we got from Sean Farrell that shows, look, man, it might be a tough month, but there's some light at the end of the tunnel historically as well. So keep that in mind as we churn through the month of September together here at Coinage. That's pretty much everything that we had for this show. As always, you can check out the latest headlines in Web3 at coinage.media and join us as co-owners of Coinage, one of the fastest growing Web3 outlets here in the US. As always, I thank you for joining us. Hope you had a good Labor Day weekend and stay with us for the month of September, locked in arm, hopefully not in depression anymore. We'll see you again soon. For everybody here at Coinage, I'm Zach Guzman. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you.